हेलो फ्रेंड्स, आज के मेरे लेक्चर में मैं डिस्कस करना चाहता हूँ माय रोल इन एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन। पर्यावरण की रक्षा में मेरी भूमिका क्या हो सकती है। एज यू नो दैट आवर अर्थ इज़ द ओनली लिवेबल प्लैनेट इन द नोन यूनिवर्स. In the universe there are millions, billions or trillions or probably infinite number of planets, stars and so many other creatures. But Earth is the only livable planet which we know. And see, we are living on this earth since millions of years. We are living in harmony with the nature. Nature is a protective shield. The environment is a protective shield for us. But in last few decades, there had been severe changes in the environment. पिछले कुछ दशकों में पर्यावरण में कुछ ऐसे परिवर्तन हुए हैं कि they have become a threat to our very existence. वो हमारी अस्तित्व के लिए एक चुनौती बन गए हैं. तो आज के लेक्चर में मैं डिस्कस करना चाहता हूँ. आज के लेक्चर में मैं कुछ मूलभूत प्रश्नों को डिस्कस करना चाहता हूँ. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, वाई वी आर कंसर्न अबाउट एनवायरनमेंट. हमें पर्यावरण की चिंता क्यों करनी चाहिए. What are the consequences we are going to face in the times to come? And third thing, the most important thing, what we can do to prevent these basic consequences, bad consequences. So let's start with something very basic. Let us see the definition of the word environment. What is environment? You see, if you refer to the dictionary meaning of the word environment, it means whatever we see all around. So what do we see all around? If you see the list, we see the land, the water, sky, vegetation, human beings, animals, property, air, microorganisms, electromagnetic flux, and so on. It can be a very long list of whatever we see all around. Does it make the complete picture? What we see all around is the different forms of creation. सृष्टि के विभिन्न रूप हमें दिखाई देते हैं. These are different form of energy in time and space. Can we define environment like this? That environment is different form of energy in time and space? No, it will be an incomplete picture. One very important aspect is missing here, and that aspect is that energy is subjected to changes. Energy in time and space can change the form. You see, all our basic knowledge, scientific knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge, is based upon one very basic concept, that is, energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. Energy is eternal. But what can be done is energy can change the form. In time and space, energy can change the form, which is defined by Einstein's basic equation, that is E is equal to m into c square. So these changes are very important. In nature, continuously changes are going on. Cycles are going on. Energy is subjected to cycle. So can we define environment like this? Different form of energy subjected to cycles. There are so many cycles in the nature. Carbon cycle may be there, oxygen cycle may be there, nitrogen cycle may be there. So many cycles are there. We can say the cycles of destruction and creation. Does it describe the complete picture? You see, nature is dynamic by nature. But one thing is important, different cycles which are going on in nature, they lead to an equilibrium. In nature, equilibrium is very, very important. Balance, proportion, Santulan. This equilibrium is very, very important for us. Take a simple example. Air contains 21% oxygen, but we are continuously inhaling oxygen for breathing purpose. Plants are continuously adding oxygen by photosynthesis. So the figure 21% is not a static figure, it's a dynamic figure. But this ratio proportion is always maintained. You see, the cycle is going on. Oxygen is subjected to cycle. But so many cycles which are going on in nature, they maintain a relative equilibrium. To explain this concept of relative equilibrium, I refer to what has been said by Professor Fritjof Capra. You see, Professor Fritjof Capra is a well-known physicist. Once upon a time he came to Mumbai. वो मुंबई में एक बीच के ऊपर लेटे हुए थे और उन्होंने ये अनुभव किया कि अंतरिक्ष से कॉस्मिक रेज दे आर कमिंग कंटिन्यूसली, एंड दीज कॉस्मिक रेज दे आर इंटरेक्टिंग विथ मॉलिक्यूल्स, एटम्स, एंड दे आर क्रिएटिंग a cycle of creation and destruction. उन अंतरिक्ष किरणों की वजह से continuously the new matter is being formed, the matter is being destroyed also, a cycle is going on. But this cycle is maintaining a sort of equilibrium, and because of that equilibrium we are existing on earth. उन्होंने इसके ऊपर एक रिसर्च पेपर पब्लिश किया था in the journal Main Currents in Modern Thoughts in 1972. The title of the paper was The Dance of Shiva, the Hindu View of Matter in the Light of Modern Physics. उसके बाद उस पेपर में उन्होंने जो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट लिखा वो इस प्रकार से था. बेसिकली वो इसमें ये बताना चाहते हैं कि सृष्टि के विभिन्न चक्र, विभिन्न रूप वो शिव के नृत्य की विभिन्न भंगिमाओं की तरह हैं. नृत्य अर्थात गतिशीलता, साइकिल्स उसके अंदर आ गए, लेकिन उसके साथ ही उसमें इक्विलिब्रियम भी होना चाहिए, उसमें संतुलन भी होना चाहिए. इसलिए उन्होंने कहा कि सृष्टि की विभिन्न चक्र और उनके बीच बना हुआ संतुलन वो शिव के नृत्य की विभिन्न भंगिमाओं की तरह है. यही बात उन्होंने इस एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर कही है. एंड देन ही टुक लॉट ऑफ एफर्ट्स टू इंस्टॉल द आइडल ऑफ डांसिंग आइडल ऑफ लॉर्ड शिवा एट द European Center for Research in Particle Physics at Geneva. It was installed on 18th of June 2004. So this is what is a basic concept of environment, that environment means equilibrium, balance and proportion. These three words are the key in the definition of environment: equilibrium, balance and proportion. When this equilibrium is disturbed, we call that pollution has come. Every particle in the nature is vibrant, systematically vibrant. It resembles to the dancing steps of Lord Shiva. Dance is dynamic. Dance refers to balance. Dance refers to equilibrium. So equilibrium is the most important concept in the definition of environment. And when this equilibrium is disturbed, we call that pollution has come. So the conceptual definition of the word environment becomes like this: energy cycles in dynamic equilibrium in time and space. Or simply you can say, when equilibrium is disturbed, the pollution is created. Now after referring to these conceptual definitions, let's go to their technical definitions also. The technical definition of the word environment and the word pollution. So let's see the technical definition of the word environment. It is like this: land, water and air and the interrelationship which exists amongst and between land, water and air, human beings, animals, plants, microorganisms and property. You see, the interrelationship, it is very important word here. It refers to the cycle and it refers to the equilibrium. The definition includes the physical world, it includes all living creatures also. Now after knowing the definition of environment, let's try to evolve the definition of pollution. The definition of pollution I can evolve by a simple example. We know that air contains 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen and 0.03% carbon dioxide at any time, and there is a minor proportion of other gases also. Now we know that oxygen is a very useful gas for us. प्राण वायु बोलते हैं हम इसको. So can we revert the proportion of nitrogen and oxygen? Let's make oxygen 78%. What will happen? With such a high proportion of oxygen, everything will start burning. The life will come to an end. So we can't do it. Let us see, carbon dioxide is responsible for air pollution. Let us make it 0%. But you see, carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis of plants. You cannot make it 0%. That means from here we arrive to a very important conclusion that nothing as such is a pollution. Nothing as such is a pollution because everything is created by God. But it is the concentration of anything which becomes a pollution. It's a wrongly placed thing which becomes a pollution. And so the technical definition of word pollution is given like this. It is the concentration of any substance which is or may be injurious to human beings, plants, animals, microorganisms or property. That is what is the accepted definition of word pollution. So we have seen the definition of pollution and environment, their conceptual meaning also. Now let us see how the science and technology, they are impacting our environment. You see, in the past century, the development of science, technology and engineering had been tremendous. And because of that, all pollution problem has come. If you look into the word engineering, it has been derived from the basic word engine. Engine, which is a symbol of dynamism and production. Engines or machines, they are used for more production. In industries we use machine. The production can be done manually also, but machines will help us to do more production in less time. Engines, they help us in dynamism also. They increase our speed of movement, speed of doing anything from one place to other place. When we go by vehicles, we go by machines or engines, our time is saved, the speed is increased. Even for computational purpose, when we use electronic devices or machines, our dynamism is increased. So machines or engines, they are basically used for dynamism and production purpose. And hence every machine requires some energy. Machines, they require energy. And you see, globally, the 80% of energy is derived from fossil fuel and 20% energy is derived from the alternative sources. And this too is a very recent figure. Just 20 years ago, 90% energy was derived from the fossil fuel and hardly 10% was from alternative sources. Fossil fuel, which includes petrol, diesel, kerosene, gas, wood, coal, etc. And alternative sources, which include solar, nuclear, wind power, tidal power, geothermal energy, ocean thermal energy, bioenergy and so on. You see, any kind of fossil fuel is made up of carbon and hydrogen. Basically it's a carbon-hydrogen compound. When we burn fossil fuel, then we get energy. In our vehicle we burn petrol and diesel. In our house for cooking purpose we burn kerosene or gas. In thermal power plant we burn coal for getting the energy. So when we burn a carbon-hydrogen compound, we are getting carbon dioxide as an end product. So basically the use of fossil fuel is linked with the excessive production of carbon dioxide. It is linked with the excessive use of energy, and it is linked with the excessive use of machines, and it is linked with the development of engineering and technology. In the past few decades, because of tremendous growth in science and technology, the use of machines have increased like anything. They have changed radically the way we live. Just we imagine of the life 100 years ago, when the people were using bullock carts and horses for their movement, और for घर में आटा पीसने के लिए चक्की, मैन्युअली एक चक्की यूज़ किया जाता था. कुएं से पानी खींचने के लिए मैन्युअली पुली यूज़ करके हम निकालते थे. But you see, in the last 100 years, our lifestyle has drastically changed. Everywhere the machines are being used in our day-to-day activity, in our official activities, industries, and these machines, they are consuming huge amount of energy. So the per capita consumption of energy has increased like anything, and this is not uniform around the world. If you see at global scale, the developed countries of the world, they are using 75% of global energy. while their population is only 25% population of the world. Rest of the 75% population living in the underdeveloped countries or developing countries, they use only 25% of energy. So energy consumption, it is directly linked with the development. More is the development of science and technology, we are using more energy. When we use more energy, because of fossil fuel dependence, we are producing more carbon dioxide. Now what happens when we produce more carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is responsible for two major environmental pollution phenomena. One is the global warming and second is the climatic pattern changes. Global warming and climatic pattern changes. First, let us see what is global warming. Global warming I explained by this simple sketch. Global warming is the increase in the temperature of earth because of carbon dioxide. You see, from sun the light is coming. All type of radiations are coming, but most of the radiations are visible radiations. They are passing through our atmosphere, falling on the surface of earth. The surface may be water body, property, vegetation, rock, anything. All surfaces, they absorb some quantum of energy and remaining energy is reflected. Now from visible light, when some energy is absorbed, the reflected energy becomes infrared radiation, the heat radiation. And carbon dioxide has a tendency that it absorbs heat radiation. It is opaque for heat radiation, and because of which it becomes like a blanket for our earth, and the earth maintains a warm temperature. If we go into the open space, temperature may be something like minus 200 degrees Celsius. The life cannot be sustained there. The life can be sustained on our mother earth because a comfortable temperature is provided by carbon dioxide. But when this carbon dioxide becomes in excess, the temperature also increases beyond acceptable limit. The temperature of earth becomes unduly high. It becomes higher, and because of which, you see, when temperature rises, these are the consequences. The melting of polar ice takes place. On the poles of earth there is a huge deposition of ice. When temperature increases, polar ice melts. When ice melts in a very large quantity, the sea level of earth increases. And when the sea level of earth increases, the coastal land gets submerged into the water. And you see, what are the consequences of land submergence? When the land will submerge, people will have to vacate the land. People will have to shift to the other areas. And then there are severe socio-economic consequences. You just imagine, in the city you have a plot, you have a house, you have a piece of land which costs crores of rupees, and you feel proud of it. Now tomorrow it is declared that this city is going to be submerged in the water. What will become the cost of land? What will become the cost of house? Who is going to purchase a land which is going to be submerged in the water? You see, if you have a government job, you will get transferred to some other place. But if you have a private job, if you have a business setup, if you have an agricultural land, the day land is going to be submerged, you become jobless, you become unemployed, you have to shift to the other city, and at that time you don't have the means for survival, and then you have to live in the slum areas of other cities. These are the ways by which slum areas have developed all over the world. Today you enter into any city, you will find that the city is surrounded by a slum area, and that slum area has been developed because of two reasons. One is because of migration of people, because of climatic changes, and secondly because of construction of large size dams, because of which also the people have migrated. And this migration is not just for few hundred people or few thousand people, it's a migration of billions of people all over the world, and this will definitely create severe socio-economic consequences. Bangladesh and Maldives are the countries which are going to suffer the most in the coming decade. But this problem is a global problem. There are many cities the many important harbors of the world which are just at the verge of drowning. Any time the sea level will rise and it will enter into the city. This problem is a global problem, and when a large number of people will migrate for the search of job, for the search of means of survival, it will create a class struggle in the society. It will destroy the entire law and order situation, and that is going to be worse than the world war, and that we are going to see in the coming few decades only, because of global warming problem, because of land submergence problem, which we are going to face in the next few decades. Apart from this, because of global warming only, our climatic pattern is changing. You see, climate has a well defined pattern. Again, if you refer to the dancing idol example, that balance and proportion are very important. So climate is an excellent example of balance and proportion. You see, all our living creatures, they are in dynamic equilibrium with the climate. They have adjusted with themselves, they have acclimatized themselves with the climate. According to climate of our country, we know that in the month of June and July, the heavy rains will come. Then in the month of August, the mild showers will come. September and October, it will become a clear sky. When this pattern is followed, then we have a good crop yield. But when this pattern is disturbed, maybe so that throughout the year you are getting the same amount of rains, but when the pattern is disturbed, the crop will definitely fail. And scientists have estimated that in the same way, if the climatic pattern changes, in the same way, if the climatic pattern goes on changing, by the year 2050, the agriculture will become almost impossible. We can't do agriculture in the industries, we can't do agriculture in the laboratories, in the confined environment. The agriculture has to be done in the open atmosphere, and if the climate changes drastically, the agriculture at large scale will become impossible. And when agriculture will not be done, there will be a less production of food, and ultimately it will lead to a starvation like situation. On one side, our population is increasing. On other side, when the food production will become less, it will be worst in our known history. So this is what is the situation we are going to face in the coming time if the global warming continues, if the climatic changes continue. Already we have seen there is a mass migration and increase in the slum area because of global warming. You see, slum is an area which is identified on the basis of indicators like poverty, malnutrition, illiteracy, disease and insanitation. I can say स्लम इज़ द वर्स्ट फॉर्म ऑफ पोल्यूशन. प्रदूषण का सबसे विकृत रूप स्लम एरिया है, गंदी बस्ती है. एंड सी, स्लम इज डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड विथ आवर एनर्जी यूज पैटर्न. इफ वी improve our energy use pattern, the slum areas will not grow. You see, the situation which we have discussed, the global warming and climatic pattern, they indicate an end of the civilization. When the crop production will not be there, the starvation will come. When people will migrate, it will become just like an end of the civilization. But you see, the only life supporting planet, our earth, it is just like our mother. And you see what our mother can do, what a mother can do for the children. Mother can do anything for the children. And I feel that in the nature there is a parental feeling. प्रकृति के अंदर मातृभाव मूल रूप से निहित है. वो उन प्राणियों में भी है जिनके पास विजडम, विवेक नहीं होता, जिनके पास बुद्धि सामर्थ्य बहुत कम होती है, लेकिन मातृभाव प्रकृति का मूल भाव है. और प्रकृति के मूल में जो माता समाहित है, वो इस प्रकार की कमज़ोर माता नहीं है. वो एक शक्तिशाली माता है जिसके पास डिवाइन पावर है, अल्टीमेट पावर है. वो एक शक्तिशाली माता है. और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि प्रकृति के मूल में समाई हुई यह माता, ये मातृशक्ति निस्संदेह हमारे ग्रह की रक्षा करेगी. वो रक्षा किस प्रकार से हो सकती है, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की ये समस्या किस प्रकार से हल होगी, इन चीज़ों के ऊपर अब हम अपना डिस्कशन प्रारंभ करते हैं. यू सी, व्हाई देयर इज़ ए ग्लोबल वार्मिंग. अभी हमने देखा excessive use of fossil fuel, excessive energy requirement. And that is the impact of science and technology on our life. Where is the solution to this problem? This is what we call the darker side of our development. So where is the way out? The solution of this problem has got three phases basically. There are three steps in the solution. The first two are listed here. The use of alternative sources of energy, and second is energy efficiency. Everybody knows there are alternative sources of energy like solar energy, wind power, geothermal, and so on. There are so many sources of energy, but their use was very much limited until the last decade. Of course, in the previous decade, their use has increased tremendously, but it has to be increased even further. When we go for alternative sources of energy, global warming problem will not take place, and that requires use of alternative sources of energy. It requires research, because presently the alternative sources of energy, they are very expensive. Actually they are available free of cost, but the technology to harness them, the technology to convert their energy into usable form is very expensive. But this will become economical, this will become viable when research will be done. So lot of research is required in this field. The research will make this technology economical. So you see, the research in the field of alternative sources of energy is not just an issue related with one branch of engineering or one specific branch of science. It's an open field for everybody. People from diversified discipline, they must come together and they must work for alternative sources of energy. If there is a civil engineer, he or she has to ensure for the construction of green building which consumes minimum energy. If he or she is a mechanical engineer, they have to develop such type of engines which works with the alternative sources of energy. If he or she is an electrical engineer, he or she must develop such technology by which alternative sources of energy can be converted into electrical energy very economically, very viably. So it's an open field for everybody. Everybody has to come together. The people have to work in harmony with each other, and ultimately we have to make this technology economical. The first step is the alternative sources of energy, and this is going to happen because the conventional source of energy, the fossil fuel, is already coming to an end. Maybe within the next decade you will not see petrol, diesel and fossil fuel. It's particularly petrol, diesel and kerosene, they may vanish in the maybe within 10 years or so. Coal and wood, they may last for a longer time, but this petrol, diesel will not. So we have to switch over, and that is actually a challenge for engineers and scientists. The second step is the energy efficiency. Maximum work, maximum output with minimum expense of energy. And that is what everybody wants. That is what is the basis of scientific development. If you are going to purchase a bike, which bike you will prefer? A bike which consumes less petrol and gives you maximum mileage? If you are going to purchase a lamp, which lamp you will purchase? Which will consume minimum electricity and will give you maximum flux output? That is what is required. You see, energy efficiency is a very important word, especially for engineers. A successful engineer is one, we will talk in terms of energy efficiency. A successful engineer is one who can do his or her job with the minimum expense of energy. So energy efficiency is the second thing which is most important, second step which is most important. So we have seen that to get rid of global warming problem, we have got two important steps. One is the use of alternative sources of energy, and second is energy efficiency. Both are important for engineers and scientists. But the third aspect, that is energy saving, it is important for a common man also. As a human being, we can save some energy, and for that we have to change our lifestyle. You see, at any stage in our life, there is a scope available for saving the energy. For example, electricity. We are living a lifestyle in which the consumption of electricity has increased like anything, but there is a scope available where electricity can be saved. For saving the energy, there are some tips available for environmental friendly lifestyle. These are some tips available. The use of bicycles. You see, in China there was a famous bicycle revolution. Everybody has used bicycle there. If you are going to college, you are a teacher, you are a professor, you are a student, you are a principal, you have to go on bicycle. When you use bicycle, there are so many benefits. First of all, your physical health will improve. Second thing, your pocket money will be saved. Third thing, your environment will be neat and clean. Fourthly, your foreign currency will be saved, which is used for import of fossil fuel. And finally, your health will also be okay, because you will not be affected by air pollution borne diseases. So there are so many benefits when you use bicycle. This bicycle revolution was quite successful in China. It was practiced in IIT Bombay also. The students were not allowed to use anything except bicycles. It is practiced in in Holland also. In Holland, they have made a law that if you are coming to a school or college, you have to come on bicycle only. So there is a lot of scope that we use bicycle and we save our environment. 80% of our air pollution is because of vehicles. So if we can minimize the use of vehicle to some extent, if we can contribute a little bit for contribute a little bit for the air pollution control, a great target can be achieved. Save electricity. You see, our lifestyle has become such that we are dependent upon machines too much, and every machine nowadays works with the help of electricity. But you see, behind electricity there is a fossil fuel, because 60% of electricity which is coming to us is coming from thermal power plants. In thermal power plants, they burn coal, they produce electricity. When coal is burned, carbon dioxide comes out and global warming and all these consequences take place. So what we require, that save electricity as far as possible. You see, according to our traditions, according to our spiritual background, if you can you do it like this, that I will make lot of food every day and throw it out just because I am a rich person, I can afford it, I can afford throwing the food outside? No, our spirituality does not allow for that. You can't do the wastage of the food. You see, this is what our ancient seers have taught us. Our ancient spiritual books have taught us. In modern context, this concept should slightly change. Not only the food should not be wasted, but the electricity should also not be wasted. You can't say that I am a very rich person, so throughout the night I will keep all my electrical appliances on. What is the issue? I am paying the electricity bill. But you see, you are paying the electricity bill, but you are not paying the cost of global warming. So this idea should born in the mind that wastage of electricity is a crime. Wastage of electricity is a sin actually. There is a difference between crime and sin. Crime is a violation of legislative law, but sin is a violation of divine law. दिव्य कानून का जब हम उल्लंघन करते हैं तो उसे पाप कहा जाता है. So wastage of electricity is a sin. This point should born in our mind. Proper use of electricity should be there. I take a simple example. Some people have estimated that the electricity which is consumed in the five-star hotels of one metro city like Delhi in one night is just equivalent to the electricity which is consumed by Meghalaya state throughout the year. On one side, electricity being used for agricultural purpose, for industrial applications, for household applications. On other side, electricity being used only for luxury purpose in the five-star hotels. So we should realize these facts. By this wastage of electricity, we are compelling somebody else to live in the substandard conditions. So we are compelling somebody else to go to the slum. We are contributing to the slum, to the increase in the population of slum, and that should not take place. We should realize that our electricity consumption is directly linked with the growth of slum area. Saving of water. You see, when water is wasted, it is not only the water value which is wasted, but electricity is also wasted. The water which is coming to our house, which is coming to our tap, it is coming from the overhead tank. How it has reached to the overhead tank? Somebody has used pump electricity to transfer water from underground tank to the overhead tank. In the underground tank, how the water has come? Somebody has used large capacity pumps to transfer water from the dams up to our house, up to our underground tank. So you see, water which is available at our house, it is associated with electricity value also. And wastage of water is a wastage of electricity also. And wastage of electricity means contributing towards global warming, contributing towards climatic changes, compelling somebody to live in the slum conditions. So wastage of water should not take place. इसके बारे में दृष्टिकोण बदलना चाहिए, नज़रिया बदलना चाहिए. जब तक आप पानी को देखेंगे कि वाटर इज़ नथिंग बट H2O, it's a monoxide of hydrogen, the wastage will always take place. But the day you start thinking that water is one of the 5 basic elements which synthesize the life, पानी पंच महाभूतों में से एक है, then the wastage of water will not be done. Save food, I have already described. Wastage of food, ultimately it's the wastage of energy, and that our ancient spiritual books have already taught us that wastage of food is a crime. Use of air conditioners, they are linked directly with the luxury. Excessive use of air conditioners in houses, in factories, in our workplace, in offices, even in our vehicles, we are using air conditioners like anything. They have become very popular nowadays. You see, when I was a student of school in 1980s, even the ceiling fans were not available in the school. They were not required also in those climates. I saw the ceiling fan when I came to the college in city. And see, nowadays air conditioners, they are being used almost everywhere. They are found in schools also, everywhere they are found. So per capita consumption of electricity has increased. When you are surviving in the air conditioner environment, when you are surviving in a comfortable life, you see in the surrounding you are creating a pollution by consumption of electricity, by production of CFCs, and that is ultimately forcing somebody else to live in the substandard conditions of slum area. So use of air conditioners, or in general I will say the use of such luxurious items must be minimized as far as possible. Use of plastic, because that is linked with the plastic pollution. Use of pesticides, that we can discuss in a separate aspect. Today we find that pesticide has become integral part of our food chain, and it is exhibiting all kind of bad effects. In general, we can say simple living is the living in harmony with the nature. Sada Jivan Uch Vichar. Simple living is living in harmony with the nature. But simple living is probably the most difficult task. For simple living, we require to be active, fit and smart. जब हमारी फिटनेस बराबर होगी, तभी हम एक सिंपल, तब हमारी luxurious requirement will become less. When we are fit, our requirement of luxury will become less, and then we can live a simple lifestyle. And how we can become fit and active? To become fit and active, we have to practice pranayam every day. Everybody must practice pranayam in yoga regularly. This will make us fit. The moment we become fit, our lifestyle becomes simple. Our requirement of luxury becomes less. Our energy requirement becomes less. Our dependence upon the luxurious machinery becomes less. And ultimately, the problems like global warming do not take place. You see, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climatic Changes, they worked very hard, and finally they came on the conclusion that the basic cause of environmental pollution is our lifestyle. Because of excessive use of energy, because of excessive use of energy in our day-to-day life, lot of pollution is going on. So we must change our lifestyle. We should learn living in an environmental friendly way. You see, already we have seen that the basic cause of environmental pollution is the development in science and technology. And you see, development is a natural phenomenon. It's a law of nature. Development has to take place. Development cannot be stopped. But the important thing is the direction of development. वॉट शुड बी द डायरेक्शन ऑफ रिसर्च, वैज्ञानिक अनुसंधान उसकी दिशा क्या होनी चाहिए, इसके ऊपर हम थोड़ी सी चर्चा करेंगे. विल टेक ए वेरी सिंपल एग्जाम्पल अवेलेबल इन अवर माइथोलॉजी. द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ चर्निंग ऑफ सी, समुद्र मंथन का उदाहरण. देवताओं और राक्षसों ने मिलकर एक बार समुद्र का मंथन किया. उस मंथन में सबसे पहले विष बाहर आया. उस विष से सृष्टि नष्ट हो सकती थी, लेकिन शिव ने उस विष को कंज्यूम किया और सृष्टि को बचाया. सबसे अंत में अमृत निकल करके बाहर आया, और जब अमृत बाहर आया तो देवता और राक्षस आपस में लड़ने लगे उसे पीने के लिए. तब मोहिनी का अवतार हुआ. इसी मोहिनी इनकारनेशन यहाँ पर सबसे अधिक महत्वपूर्ण है. मोहिनी ने बड़ी ही होशियारी के साथ में अमृत देवताओं में बांटा और राक्षसों को उसके हाथ नहीं लगने दिया. You see, Mohini is a symbol of our consciousness. It's not a symbol of our intellectual power. It's a power of our. It's a symbol of our consciousness. You see, whenever a research is done, churning of sea, samudra ka manthan. Whenever a research is done, gods and evil they both work. People with good ideas, people with bad ideas, they both work. And whenever there is a research, the side effects are there. The bad effects are also there. If the society has the capacity to sustain these bad effects, then the final good effect comes in the form of nectar, in the form of amrit. And you see, when the power of research comes out, then the society must have consciousness, Mohini, to sustain this power. For example, the nuclear power has been explored by us. Now nuclear power is in our control. Now it is our consciousness which will decide whether this power should be used for mass destruction or it should be used for electricity production. So that is what is the importance of our consciousness. You see, consciousness has got two levels, the individual's consciousness and collective consciousness. Vyashti Chaitanya evam Samashti Chaitanya. The both should develop, and they can be developed by meditation. Unfortunately, human being has a very high level of intellectual level, but our consciousness level is not comparable even with the animals. You see, जब सुनामी या भूकंप जैसी कोई घटना होती है तो कुत्तों को उसके बारे में पहले से अवेयरनेस हो जाता है, कुछ क्षण पहले से ही वो होशियार हो जाते हैं. बर्ड्स को उसके बारे में पता चल जाता है. दैट इज़ बिकॉज ऑफ देयर कॉन्शियसनेस. आप कभी ऑन्ट्स को, चींटियों को काम करते हुए देखिए. दे डू नॉट हैव ए लैंग्वेज टू कम्युनिकेट, but in an orderly way they work with their power of collective consciousness. कभी मधुमक्खियों को काम करते हुए देखिए. They work together with the power of their collective consciousness. They do not have a language. They do not talk with each other while making a honeycomb. They cannot talk with each other. That they do not know the calculation of bending moment and of shear forces. But still they make such a beautiful honeycomb structure. How it is done? It is done by their consciousness. Such a consciousness must develop in the mankind also. Our intellectual power is increasing. Simultaneously, our consciousness must also increase, and consciousness is increased by meditation. Everybody must practice meditation. Consciousness will definitely increase. Before we conclude, I would like to refer what Mahatma Gandhi has said. एक बार महात्मा गांधी और पंडित नेहरू साबरमती के तट के ऊपर फ्रेश हो रहे थे, आचमन कर रहे थे. तब महात्मा गांधी ने एक लोटे में थोड़ा सा पानी लिया और अपना हाथ मुंह धोने लगे. तब पंडित नेहरू ने कहा, महात्मा जी आप इतनी कंजूसी पानी क्यों वापर कर रहे हैं, भरपूर पानी है नदी के अंदर. एट दैट टाइम महात्मा गांधी यूज दिस सेंटेंस, नेचर हैज़ गॉट इनफ टू सेटिस्फाई द नीड ऑफ एवरीबडी बट नॉट द ग्रीड ऑफ एनीबडी. And this has become the principal statement of environmental science. Nature has sufficient to satisfy the need of everybody. We can survive forever, but an environmental friendly lifestyle is required. Our greed should not be there. Then only we will sustain forever. This is the key to the sustainability. Milking of a cow is sustainable, but assassinating a cow is not sustainable. This basic concept we should always keep in mind. एक हिम्न यहाँ पर मैंने रेफर किया है. Thy mountains resemble self-pride, thy wings sing victory voice, thy sky resemble invincible armor, We people and all living creatures get thy shelter, O Mother Earth, forgive us because we touch you with our feet. इस प्राचीन ऋचा में पृथ्वी की महिमा का वर्णन किया है और अंत में कहा है ओ मदर अर्थ फॉरगिव अस बिकॉज वी टच यू विथ आवर फीट। हम अपनी माँ के आंचल में खेलते हैं, उसे अपने पाँवों से मारते भी हैं, उसमें गंदा भी कर देते हैं, लेकिन माँ का आंचल सब कुछ सह सकता है। लेकिन एक ही बात का हमें ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि यह हमारी माँ का आंचल है। हमारे पूर्ण व्यवहार में ये दिखना चाहिए, ये प्रतिबिंबित होना चाहिए कि हाँ ये हमारी माँ का आंचल है। ये कोमल भाव जब हमारे मन में रहेगा किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट को बनाते समय, तो डेफिनेटली उससे पॉल्यूशन नहीं होगा और वो सस्टेनेबल रहेगा। अंत में यही एक दिशा निर्देश जो हमारे शास्त्रों ने हमें दिया है कि संपूर्ण विश्व ईश्वर से आच्छादित है और उसे त्याग कर जो हमारे लिए दिया है देवताओं ने, हम केवल उसी का उपभोग करें, अपनी सीमाओं का उल्लंघन ना करें, किसी और के अधिकार को न छीनें, तो सब जगह शांति रहेगी और कहीं भी किसी प्रकार से पॉल्यूशन नहीं होगा। मेरे विचार से ईशा उपनिषद में कहा गया ये श्लोक पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा के लिए दिया गया सबसे स्पष्ट दिशा निर्देश है। अगर हम इसका पालन करते हैं तो प्रदूषण की समस्या से हमेशा के लिए मुक्ति हम पा सकेंगे, क्योंकि ये इस बात पे एम्फेसाइज करता है कि हम किसी दूसरे के अधिकार को न छीनें। जब ना छीने तो हमें अपने पास जो अवेलेबल है उसमें सेटिस्फाई रहना सीखना पड़ेगा, और उस सीखने के लिए हमें अपनी लग्जरी की रिक्वायरमेंट को कम करना पड़ेगा, उतना फिट हमें बनना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए उतना प्राणायाम और योगा और मेडिटेशन हमें प्रैक्टिस करना पड़ेगा। और तब संसार में युद्ध नहीं होंगे, तब संसार में सर्वत्र शांति होगी। तो इस दिशा निर्देश को हम हमेशा अपने ध्यान में रखें, यही मेरा आप सभी से निवेदन है। आई एम प्रोफेसर मुजाहिद हुसैन एंड दिस इज़ व्हाट इज़ माय ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन। थैंक यू।